Yeah, let's commence. Is there anything you want to say before we begin? Any questions, comments, etc.? None?
I just wanted to ask if you got that exercise that was sent through, get the results back of them.
Picture size.
Yeah, the exercise that we sent through, man. The few problems that you sent us.
What picture? Picture slides? I'm not getting you, man.
Exercise, man. Exercises. Those little problems you gave us to send through.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
Yes,
You
yes, yes.
you did that, eh?
Yeah,
On the
yeah,
Google
yeah.
Forms. Okay, cool. No, it's fine. I mean, I hope you could manage it, at least. But anyway, um, that was yeah.
All good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the yeah, there's a lot on my side here. You are writing in how many weeks from now? In literally this it's like 2 weeks, eh? And we're gonna need to make a nice plan on how we're gonna conduct some sessions. I probably might want to meet with you guys. I don't know, maybe twice next week. Especially with the first content. But I'll discuss it on the group after we've concluded with today's session. But today I'm gonna just warm up with shear, do tensile testing, and then probably start on the compound bars, and then I'll leave it just there. So we're looking at around approximately six to five problems, and I hope everyone's gonna be working with me. Yeah, I don't unfortunately do a talk lecture. As I talk and then I explain and we solve, explain and then solve. Yeah, so I think we're all aware of that. Okay, just to start off with again, highlighting the importance of why we're learning this stuff. This is an actual material test certificate. This was shared by my colleague some time ago. Can you guys all see it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you
Yes,
normally get
yes,
yeah,
really.
you get this at a mall. So like Sodano Steel when they're operating, they'll manufacture steel and there will be a particular cost. I don't know, Chad, if you're the machinist, no? If I remember correctly. Anyway, tells you obviously your dimensions of the plate. It tells you the chemical composition, and then obviously I want to bring to your attention. Just admit to people if you can. It's just easier for me. And then you notice on the plate itself your YS, which is supposed to be your yield strength, your ultimate tensile strength, your elongation, and this is your rocker hardness. They do mention some other tests here, which I'm not sure what that is. I know what a bending test is and an impact test. By the way, these tests are typically conducted according to whatever standard of steel. So this, you don't typically want to trust Asian molds, eh? Just by the way. But there's this particular standard, and that standard will tell you what kind of testing must be done to conform to particular steel. So let's sort of begin with that over there. And then we can begin with our whiteboard. So, or blackboard in this case. So I'll just go to the book. Guys, this book is an e-book. I can't share it with you. I recommend just buying it. It's really not that expensive. And yeah, I think it's super useful. I'm gonna share it with you now, and then yeah, we're gonna begin. So I'm just gonna quickly start off with a shear, and then we're gonna commence with the tensile testing, which is a big section. A lot of free marks. Yeah. So again, shear. I didn't mention to you what it is. It's like tearing a page, and where we have a parallel force. And guys, what is the most important part? Um, in your direct stress, you're looking at the area perpendicular, right? But in this case, you're looking at the area parallel to the force applied. Okay, that's very important with shear. This doesn't really come a lot in the test, however, it does come, right? It has exactly a similar relationship to the previous one, but instead of using sigma, we use tau for the shear stress, that fancy T, force over area. And then we also have our shear strain as well. Again, if if you divide your shear strain by your shear stress by your shear strain, you get something called the shear modulus or modulus of rigidity, right? Which is a similar property to your elastic modulus. And then anyway, so let's quickly just look at I just want to do a quick illustration of the shear, and this tends to happen a lot. So I want us to look at example 1.4. So I just want to quickly show you, read the example, and I'll point to the sketch, then we'll actually solve it. It's actually really quick. So it states that we have a force of 50 kilonewtons, right? It acts on a bolted plate in figure 1.20, which is essentially the same over here. Over here, let me just use this one. This looks like a rivet to me. And it asks you calculate the shear stress in the bolt of a diameter of 20 mil. So I'm just going to quickly prepare my whiteboard. Then I'm just going to warm up with these questions. And then, yeah, we'll begin with the stuff in question. So, guys, I want to be clear, right? When it's shear, using the area parallel, right? Parallel to the force, whereas its direct stress is the force perpendicular. Very important, eh? Just want to paste the question. Okay, there we go.
So sorry,
Now,
please explain that I cannot get confused with the perpendicular and the parallel one.
yeah, so when I say it, what do you think I mean by that? Explain it to me.
So parallel one, I would always think of, okay, the way I think of it is my back against
Yes,
the wall, parallel with the wall
100%.
itself, and then
Okay,
perpendicular at 90 degrees
on the floor, right? You were standing.
on the floor that I'm standing. That's perpendicular.
For sure.
Correct.
Okay, so I
But
like
now
your example. Yeah,
my,
nice.
my my question is, when is it perpendicular or when is it parallel? Is it when the force is being pulled in a certain direction, or how does it work?
Yes, that's
That's
what I'm.
where I get confused.
That's what I'm trying to say. So when we're talking about
Okay.
direct stress, right? Force over area, right? You know this, right? This shear stress and direct stress is not the same thing, right? This we have either tensile or compressive. I'm explaining concept here, no? Before we get on. Is that fine to everyone? You understand what these two is, right? You can say yes, Edwin. I mean, yeah.
Tensors?
Yeah. Tensile and compressive, right? And when you're dealing with this direct stress, right? I'll call it direct here. I'll call this shear. You use the area perpendicular here, right? On this case. Are you with me? In this case, that's shear and use the area and you use parallel. Okay. Are you with me now? You see the difference in the areas?
Yes.
Okay, so let me explain. So for instance, if I had a setup like this, right, and the loading was like this, ignore this question for now, right? This area over here, right, is perpendicular to this force. Can you see over there? This round section over here, what they're mentioning here. You see that?
Yeah.
So that we'll use this area, the pi d, the power over 4 d squared, right? However, when you're talking parallel, when you're talking shear force for the same configuration, right? You're applying the force here, right? And there, of course, that's how it's going to tear. The same area is going to shear. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you over there? So it's still pi over 4 d squared. Are you with me?
Not yours.
Yeah, so obviously for a cylindrical thing, it's the same area, but I'm just making you aware that the way I'm viewing it. So shear would be two plates like that, one force going that way, one force going that way. It's going to shear off, like it's going to go into two sections in this way. So you have to use that area. So just remember shear parallel the area, and direct stress would be perpendicular to the area. That's essentially the crux of the matter. So guys, just a quick one over here. We'll talk about the others now. So then they ask us to compute the shear stress, right? So we know shear is equal to force over area. I normally know it as V over A, but anyway, you can just call it F over A. So we know it's 50 kilonewton. I think we all know. I can show you so much stuff on this kind of stuff, but it's not enough time to show you where it all fits in. But anyway, so it's pi over 4. And then you again, the reason we are using the pi over 4 d squared, because that area is parallel to that over there. It's essentially it's breaking. So that'll be 0.02 squared. And then you'll get our answer over there. Okay. Just a warm up, eh? We're not getting to the meat and the bones. It's the meat and the potatoes, sorry. So okay. Can we all just quickly work that on out? What is that answer? Just a warm up. Some people are rusty. So now what did you get there? Oh, Vincent? Any answers, colleagues, please? We have to solve, eh?
I work with you, I work with you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
I got 159.15
Yeah, yep.
times
So
10 to the power 6.
yeah, so we call that megapascals, Chief Vincent, eh? I know you're a bit rusty there. Okay, that's fine.
What is the answer?
Yeah. Okay, so 159.15 ampere. I hope everyone has gotten this. Just a warm-up problem. Again, what's important here is the area, right? You'll see as you move along these problems, where this is important. Okay, I hope everyone got that, eh? So I wanted to quickly go on to the concept of double shear now, right? So I'm just gonna put up screen the thing. So that was single shear, meaning it broke in one area, and now we need on to double shear here. So double shear is just basically all the same stuff, but in the double shear scenario, what is important here, it's just basically it's shearing at two different sections, right? So here we've got one force, or essentially two forces being applied that way, and another force being applied that way, and it's going to shear over here and shear over there. Or what we essentially do is just take the area and we just times it with the amount of areas it breaks. So this is a lot different for when you're doing a tensile. You don't times the amount of area it breaks. But then just again, this does not happen frequently, these type of problems. But it's obviously worthwhile sharing. Okay. So in this case, it breaks over here, right? Obviously, right? Can you guys see that? And it breaks over there. You guys with me? So therefore, it's going to be 2 times the area. So if I'm going to just pull up another problem quickly using a knuckle joint. Does anyone know what a knuckle joint is? No one. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yes,
so,
anyone?
sorry, apologies. I would ask a lot of questions. So area is times 2. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, for double shear. So,
For that,
for instance, like if so, the questions don't tell you, right? So they give you something like this, right? You apply the 60 kilonewton load. So they'll ask you calculate the shear stress of the material. Now, if you are inexperienced, right, you probably just take the one area. So first of all, you check first of all, let me look at my force. That's two forces going that way. And if that is going to go, they normally state that the pin is in double shear anyway. So it kind of gives you a hint to what's happening. But if that breaks, it'll break over there, right? And it'll break over there. So that hence it's in double shear. So therefore it's the same thing, but 2 times now in terms of the area. So you go shear equals force over area.
times 2.
Yeah, exactly. Times 2. Just allow the people in. So in this case, it's 60 kilonewtons. And then you're basically just going to say 2 times the pi over 4. Again, these are very elementary problems. Times 0.03 squared. And then you basically find the shear stress of this particular joint. So when you're designing, you know which kind of material to use. It must be within that limit. Anyway, so again, there should be a quick calculation. Can you guys quickly do it? Shear, there's a whole big thing on shear, by the way. It's just that it's not the core focus of this particular, you know what I mean? Yeah. I can show you where it's very important, but just that it's not the core focus of, yeah. So again, double share, the concept is just be cognizant of the fact of those things there. Yeah.
42,4.
100%, yeah. That's perfectly fine. Okay. That's the shear stress in the joint. 42,4 MPa. Okay, cool. So that's what, yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's the shear stress which that's gonna experience. Okay, so what is you know, guys, what I want to try to do at some point here, because I know time always catches us, is I want to show you how the stuff all comes together. This is all used in mechanical design. So before we design stuff, we look at loading conditions on whatever element we're doing, and then we look at all the stresses, what's happening in the system, and then afterwards we get basically sizes in terms of what's the thickness, what's the diameter, what type of material. All of this stuff happens, right? So whatever structure you see, let's say an automobile, these things are accounted for in terms of the structural integrity. But like, I mean, we're just doing calculations now. But okay, that's shear. There is a lot of other concepts, colleagues. I do recommend you go over them yourselves. And then just let me know if you don't understand a particular thing, then I can obviously explain. Yeah, you know, I can explain that particular thing. But that's enough for shear. Just the key point, area parallel, right? Okay, so I'm gonna move along. So now I want to come up to testing of materials. Now that's what I want to do. Okay. Yeah. So unfortunately for you, I've done this. I've worked with this at a company called Gascon. We built pressure vessels, and I tested a shit ton of materials. Excuse my lack of language for the better word. Anyway, so what we have with the tensile test. I'm not sure if anyone has seen this before. Has anyone seen this before? Tensile test. Who has any experience with tensile test or tensile property? So now, Vincent, Edwin.
Nothing my side.
Nothing your side? Okay, okay. Anyone? There's actually a lab, called 180 degrees, which actually does this. They do this type of testing. Anyone? Hey, man. No one. Okay, right. So what happens here? Okay. So I do recommend watching the video. I'm sharing my slides again. And then there's two videos I sent you explaining this. And I can send you a video what an actual tensile test looks like. So nevertheless, so tensile test, what we typically have, let's see what it looks like. We have a specimen. So it typically looks like this. It could be round or rectangular. Don't want to get into all of that. We put it into the tensile testing machine or universal testing machine. What you tend to find is one of the heads over here is stationary, so it keeps it stationary, and then you put it in here, and one of the heads on top or is basically moving. So what happens is sometimes they use hydraulic systems to actually do this. So then what happens? You clip the specimen in, it goes up, and we end up generating a graph. These are just some examples of what some testing machines look like. So anyway, as you have the specimen in, and I should have actually gotten my slide for this. A load is gradually applied at a particular rate, right? As a load, so the specimen's length will increase. So for instance, as you load up the specimen, it'll go like this, goes like that, does a quick dip down, goes up, goes to a point, and eventually breaks. This happens exactly how this graph looks like. So once it breaks, there is a particular graph, and on the graph there are certain points of question, right? So first of all, so this first section over here, right? This over here, that is called your limit of proportionality or elastic limit, this piece over here, right? Just this piece over here. What this piece means is that if you apply any load within this region, so let's say this max load here at C, for instance, is 50 kilonewtons, and you apply a load of 35 at A. If you take it to 35 and you release that load, right? The steel will go back to its original shape. So I'll say that again. So let's imagine this to be 50 kilonewtons and A to be 35. You take it to 35 and release the 35, it'll go back. Basically, the steel will behave as an elastic. So this whole region here, the material behaves as elastic. By the way, if you take the gradient of this line, which you can convert this into stress over stress on this side, dividing by the area and strain on the extension, you find the elastic modulus. I'll just quickly show you what that looks like over here. So that gradient over there, you can see there, the slope, that's where you actually find your elastic modulus. I'll come back to that. Okay, so then you get to C, which is called the upper yield point. So any load above this point, right, it will permanently deform. So from C to F, here there's plastic deformation, meaning it cannot return to its original state. That's what's important over here. So you have upper and lower yield. This happens to some microstructural configurations within the material. And then you'll keep on loading till a maximum point, which is actually deemed your maximum load or your UTS, your ultimate tensile strength, and eventually breaks. Okay, so that's exactly what the graph looks like. There are a lot of variations with this. Again, back to this. Taking that graph into a stress and strain graph, it's basically the same thing. Here you have your I'll show you this is what a specimen looks like, your typical dog bone. At the first point, you load it up, it increases a bit of increases more, it necks, where you start to see it breaks, like it has a small neck and eventually fractures. So all of this is basically linked to each one over here. Again, elastic deformation, meaning whatever load is here, you can return it to its original shape. Any load above that, which is essentially the plastic part, is that it cannot return. So this is what a typical a tensile test or tensile graph looks like. Talking about the elastic modulus, I did mention I'll get back to this. So just reading off here, it does state that the elastic modulus, E, is a measure of the stiffness of a material determined by the slope of the straight line, portion of the stress and strain curve, as I mentioned to you. So again, what the elastic modulus essentially is, it's a form of, I quote unquote stiffness of a material. So what they say there, a material having a steeper slope on the stress and strain curve will be stiffer and will deform less under load. And where it's less steep, it will have less stiffer. So for instance, if you look at steel, right? That's why we use actually steel, because it's more stiff. It can elastically deform as compared to the other types of material. And what they do saying here, I like, it can be seen that if two other otherwise identical parts are made of steel and aluminium respectively, the aluminium part would deform about 3 times as much, right? Comparing these two, as much as steel, but even though subjected to the same load. So that's what your E value actually is, your elastic modulus. All right, and then just to end off we'll come back to this. So who's coming in and out? Okay, go back to this. Just want to show you some stuff. So when I was working at a company, like I mentioned to you, you would typically get a standard. In this case, this was to do with it's for hull, which is basically on a ship. There'll be different grades over here. So we get a piece of steel. They want to put the steel on the hull to repair a section of the hull, and I want to make sure that that piece of steel conforms to this particular standard. So what happens, I get the plate, I send it for machining into various specimens, whatever test the standard requires. That is me. Well, that's probably test like around 10 years ago. That's me in that old machine over there. It's a tensile test on that side. We pull it. we get that graph, and then based on the graph, we have to make sure that those values over here, it conforms within those values. So for instance, if they were expecting an AH36 material, for example, and it's not within those limits, they'll have to find another plate. Yeah. I don't know if that's clear to everyone. So you can also view this as a quality assurance type of thing. Is everyone still following me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, man. I'm talking a lot here.
Following.
Okay, thanks. So back to the
Let me
graph
just
again.
ask you this.
Yes,
When
talk.
as you're doing the test, and you're
Yeah.
keeping both things, is it like a ball through, or is it just clamped like?
It's
Oh, like
clamped. So you're
like
seeing
a
me
UV.
clamping this. Yeah, you're seeing me clamping the specimen here right now. So once it's clamped, and then the machine will basically run after that. So like you load the machine at a particular rate,
Yeah.
and then it starts to basically pull the specimen. You can watch it. I can send you a nice video of what it looks like.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So that's me. It's a bit of an old school machine. You clamp it, and then it just runs, and it generates this graph for you in real time. This graph which I mentioned to you over here. So you actually see the graph go. I was using old graph paper, like with a pencil and everything, at that machine. There's a lot of more modern machines. Yeah. And I mean, I was working with the machinists, the guys doing welding. But anyway, I can talk about this for like legit 4 hours. But anyway, so based on this graph, right, we need to determine certain values, right? Inga, yes. The hand was up, eh? Not sure if you. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Chief. Loud and clear.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I just wanted to ask, in terms of the breaking point, does
Yes.
this graph show any breaking point? Would the breaking point of that steel be maybe at E, which is the maximum load, or it would be further there?
Yeah, so the breaking point is at F where it fractures. That's where it
Or
breaks.
fracture
So this is the
point.
maximum
Oh,
load it
okay.
takes. Yeah. This is the maximum load it takes. So this is where it actually snaps, like it disassembles, into two pieces.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So on this graph here, right? We must now calculate certain stresses. And yeah, along the graph over here. So basically, there are a few stresses. I think let me use your N5 textbooks rather, just for uniformity purposes. And this is what I legit did. I first initially thought that I'll never ever get a chance to actually do it, but I somehow ended up in that field where it was just obviously an Excel spreadsheet. I was doing it most of the time because I mean you just had to program it, write it once out, the formulas. Okay, so this is what it looks like again. This is exactly it. I think some of the books require you to understand each individual part. So I'm not sure I'm sure you guys can go over that. And then I want us to look at a few parameters on this thing. I don't like particularly the way they've structured here. Okay, so let me just go back to my thing rather. It's just gonna be easier. Okay, it's all the same really. So using that graph, if you recall what it was, to find your yield strength, sometimes it's an upper or lower yield. Typically, they'll give you a value. And then you just basically take the load divided by the area. It's all force over area. For your UTS, you take a load at point E, which was that maximum load Inga was talking about. Divide that by area. Don't worry, we'll be doing 2 examples of this. We look at the percentage elongation. This is a very important metric. It's just like the strain. So what would happen is I'll have a specimen like this. I'll put up 2 gauge mounts. I use a center punch. Can you bloody believe it? In a hammer, right? Vernier, make 2 marks on the one side, center punch, and then I put that in the machine, breaks afterwards. I put it back together. Then I actually measure the length afterwards. So LO would be like typically 50 mil. I can't remember the other length again. And then afterwards, it'll be LF, which will be the final length. So I take the final length minus the initial length, which is that changing length, divided by L, or the original length times it by 100, get the percentage elongation. It's just like the strain. And then you have a percentage reduction area. This parameter is important, especially for through thickness. If you have a very thick plate, we typically use this. And in this case, we measure the area before, right, at that point here, and then measure the area afterwards. That's the D1, D2, divided by the initial area, that one over there, and then times that by 100, and you get it in percent. But what you can also just do is remove all the pi over 4s, because that's common. You have D1 squared minus D2 squared, which is basically initial minus final, divided by initial squared times 100. And what's important in these parameters, colleagues, what it quantifies, what it tells you is ductility. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the concept. Probably I'll just mention to you now. So a ductile material, just before we end off all the talking, is basically a material, if you look at the bottom over here, right? It's this, like, for instance, at these two materials over here. So what ductile is basically it's able to stretch for some time. It can be drawn for a long time, and then it eventually fractures, right? Typically over 20% is considered to be ductile. However, that is a subjective number. You know, people say normal blood pressure is at 120/80, but before it used to be around 140/90. But now people change the metric for what is ductile or not. So I'm just letting you know, I know there's 20%, 5% is quite small. A brittle material, it suddenly falls under load. So that means you load it up, it doesn't deform, it immediately breaks once it reaches UTS. So basically there's no yield point, it just completely fractures. So the difference between the two, for a layman, a ductile material, basically when the structure collapses, we have time to scream before it breaks. Whereas ductile, it loads up, breaks immediately, there's no time to scream, you're basically dead. So I hope you guys get the difference between the two. And what these parameters do is basically, what's what I'm looking for? Quantify. It tells you how much ductility there is. Yeah. All right. So without further ado, let's solve our first tensile test question, if you don't mind. So this one, should I use the book? I have questions prepared. I'm sure you saw the Google Classroom over there. I want to use, okay, let me use that ones over there. You should find it there. Just get the thing quickly. And we're going to be basically doing two of these questions over here. And guys, for your up and coming test, ensure you are able to do this without fail. So session 2, okay? Session 2. Okay, cool. Just close this on session 1. Yeah. Over here, okay. That's all there on. Okay, so this is from the Wickens textbook. Okay. Make sure you do this. Is a very popular question in the past papers.
Share, please.
Yeah, I'm sharing it now. Yeah, sorry, dude.
I just couldn't see your screen.
Okay, now I'm still sharing. Okay, so here we go. So we're gonna do two of this. One I'm gonna talk mostly through, and we're gonna do, and then other one I want you guys to do. Okay. I think I might just pull up a random past paper while you guys are busy with this here. So here we have. So the test has been done, right? And we have all of the information, the data. So it says a tensile test to destruction carried out on a steel test piece of diameter 60 millimeters and a gauge length of 70 millimeters. Gave the following results. Key point here, initial conditions are given here, right? 16 mil, and then your 70 mil. Okay. The load at proportionality, sorry about that, is at 68 kilonewtons. So remember, that's all over here. You load at your yield point, which is just on there, right? Your maximum load, 130, which is there. Load of fracture, it's over there. And your extension at fracture, that's the total length after, after it's been broken. So basically that's extension. And then you have your diameter after fracture. So it is reduced from 16 to 9.8. So these are the following things I asked for. Okay. So they're all basically the same formulas, but you must just know which values to use based on the text given. So 3.1. So it says the limit, the stress at the limit of proportionality, which is in this limit over here, right? And remember, this is where we find our elastic modulus. So we take our load at our elastic, our load at the limit of proportionality, which is 68, and divided by the area over there, right? The initial area. So let's quickly do that. It's all force over area calculations. So I don't know, you can just call it stress force over area. Maybe you can call it a subscript LP for limit of proportionality. The force is 68. Okay. And our area is given as pi over 4 times 0.016 squared. Key, make sure you use the initial area for this, right? Can we just quickly get that value?
Yeah.
Got the book in front of me so I can easily just quickly check. Okay, let's quickly see. Yeah.
I got 338,2 MPa.
Perfect. 338,2 megapascals. That's definitely correct. So that's again at the limit of proportionality, right? That's basically over there. Colleagues, do we all agree with that? Inga, Vincent? Let me know. You all get that? You all get that? Can we move on? Can we all move on? Can we move on? Okay. Assume we can. So then at 3.2,
Sorry, sir.
yes,
Sorry, it's 338,20.
that's fine. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Yeah. So at 3.2, we have to calculate the Young's modulus now, right? So now, you guys recall the Young's modulus was? It was stress over strain, right? Okay. Are we happy with that? So what is key here, right, is that you want to be working within this region over here, right? Remember, it's the slope of that line. Obviously, it's a bit skew here. Make a pencil fine. But we basically use the value of the limit of proportionality because within that region. But we need to calculate the strain, right? The extension. So they give you an extension at the limit of proportionality, which is 130 times 10 to the power negative 6. So if you remember what strain was, I think Edmund did ask about this. So strain is X over L. Now extension is given as 130, right? Times 10 to the power negative 6. It's very small initially, remember. I'm dividing that by the length, and the length, original length was given as 70. That's the original gauge length. That's the punch marks I was talking about. So we divide that by 70 and we get a corresponding strain. And just quickly get the strain value.
So sorry, quickly. Just it's not very clear. Is that
It's
130
not in
times 10
meters, no?
Okay?
meters?
Yes. Is my
What's
writing
the
is not
length
clear?
in meters there? Times
Hey?
10 to the minus 3. The length.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, so that's in meters. This must also be meters at the bottom, right? So that's going to be 0.07. Thank you for picking it up here. Thanks. That should both be, you can either keep it in both millimeters or meters. Yeah, thanks for that, yeah. Let's get that strain quickly. Okay.
About 1,857 times 10 to the minus 3.
1,857 times 10 to the negative 3, right? Dimensionless, that's perfect. But remember, we must calculate the elastic modulus, which is the stress over the strain. So you're basically using the same stress. We'll just call it LP again, divided by the strain now. We can also call this LP. It's all in the limit of proportionality if you want. So that'll be 338.2 times 10 to the power 6. And we divide that by 1.857 times 10 to the power negative 3. But you tend to find your E is always around 200 odd because you're typically working with steel. So I'm just letting you know 200, around 190 to 210. So yeah, that's quite common. If you're not getting that value, you can nearly assume that you're not in the right place. Not always, but I mean, typically, yeah. Let's quickly get the elastic modulus. And that should be GPA.
One or two.
What did you get? 182. Yep.
2.121.
So this could be that's not necessarily steel, but close. 182 point. You said?
1 to 1.
1 to 1. 1 to 1. GPA. Perfect. So elastic modulus always gigapascal. Okay. So you've got that value. The so-called degree of stiffness, as they say. Okay. So that's 3.2. Let's quickly do 3.3. That's the yield. Now, guys, the yield is basically where that bump is. So yield is the last value within the elastic region. Any load or stress greater than the yield, it'll be plastically deformed. That means it cannot return to its original shape. Okay, so let me just move that to the side. Let me just go over here. So 3.3. Put up the, I'm not sure the Vickers textbooks are the same example, the latest one. So the yield value is typically given. That's 90 kilonewtons. Can we all see it there? And we again just divide it by the original area for now. So we're just going to call it sigma. Let me just reduce my thickness here. Sigma ys. That's force over area. So our force at the yield was given as, just quickly check, 90, I believe, right? 90 kilonewton. And we divide by exactly the same area. So if you had your area there before, then yeah, it's worked perfectly. And that's 0.16, so 16 more. Okay, yep. So we just work out that. So can you see it's the same force over area calculation the whole time, basically. The new guys.
I got 7,16. What is that? MPA.
7,16. That's a big number. We just confirm. Yeah, it's a really big yield. Now it call me 7,16.
It's 447,62.
447, yes. There we go.
6-2.
Yeah.
See, I did wrong. Yeah.
447. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that seems really realistic as well. 447.62, right? Megapascals. Yeah. So 3.4, it should have been worded rather the ultimate tensile strength. Oh, you guys quickly do this for me. That's the max value, right? The maximum load it can take in kilonewton is 130. So once again, you still divided by the what do you call this? The original not the original, the original area. Yeah. Quickly work out that's the maximum load. That's on that certificate I was showing you about. So here we found the yield stress. I'll come back to it again. And now we find the UTS. Quickly work it out for me. Guys got it? You guys got it?
Sorry, sir, I got distraction. So this is once again your force over area.
Oh, it's all force over area, but now it's at the maximum now. The tensile strength that should have been worded the ultimate tensile strength rather.
Okay, that's the UTS. Okay.
Yeah, that's the UTS.
All right, next.
Okay, you guys get it?
Yeah, I got 646,5 MPA.
Yeah, I'll just write the answer there. So UTS, subscript UTS 646. Yeah. How much? 646 point?
5.6 times 10 to this. Yeah, MPA.
5.6, no? MPA. Okay. So just again, I just want to quickly.
Does it matter with the decimals? Can you just round off to one decimal behind?
Yeah, normally you want to keep it around. It's more what significant figures, but normally keep it around 2 to 3 to be safe, right? Yeah. So again, I just want to quickly screenshot that. So you guys can just quickly see what I'm talking about. So on the report, again, I'm just going to show you that value. Can you see there? That's 6. That's the UTS over there. That's your yield. We're still working out the elongation. Okay. So now, let's work out the rest. So there's two other ones called the breaking stress and the actual fracturing stress. This is not typically values which is reported on. So we look at basically the load at fracture, right? So when it's broken, and so what we do over here. So the breaking stress would be, or the fracturing stress would just be the load at that particular place, the 70 kilonewton divided by that area. And then an actual fracturing stress is actually using the actual cross-sectional area where it broke. So in that case, it'll be the 9.8. So I'll just quickly do that here. 3.5. We can just call it fracturing stress, right? Just remember the difference between the actual fracturing and the again, these are not reported for. They do have reasons for these ones. But we typically work with those values. So it was 70 kilonewton. So still it's same as the, it's basically the load at fracture. It's given, right? 70. Okay. And we divide it now by the area. It should have been squared, sorry. Pi over 4 times 0.016 squared. We get that value. And then your actual fracture, right? That's the area at breaking. So I'm just going to say, let's just call it FA, right? Or AF if you want. Also force over area. So then, but now the force now at fracture is still 70, right? I want you guys to work this out. But now remember, the actual things with you, the actual area at a particular point. And in that case, it's going to be 9.8 millimeters. So remember, you've been working with the 16 mil all the time. So now you're going to have to use a 9.8 millimeters. So that's going to be pi over 4 times 0.0098 squared. Okay, am I right with my zeros? Or 9.8 times 10 to negative 3 squared, depending how you want to put it. Okay. Let's quickly get those values. So one is of the fracturing and the actual fracture. I'm not sure what the Vickens textbook, if I have that here. Yeah. I do see it here in the Toy textbook.
Meneer.
Right. Hey,
Help
Don?
me weer. Zeg gewoon weer. What? Sorry, say again. What's the difference between the fracture and the actual fracture?
Actual
I'm
fracture is
not
using it's using the actual area at fracture. So remember at next to like 9.8. Should I show you that sketch? Maybe. Yeah. Show you the sketch again. Where is that thing now? Okay.
Is that because it's stretched? It is it.
Yes.
So now your length is.
It's not length,
okay.
more but area. Yeah. So actual fracture. So
area got thinner. Yes, I got you.
yeah. There.
Got you. Because it's stretching is like the piece of.
Yes.
Or something. The longer you stretch it, the thinner it gets.
That's
okay,
correct.
I got you.
Yeah, there we go. So for this one, you should have gotten 348. 15. So basically, that's at that load at the point of breaking. Remember, it's not the maximum load it actually takes, right? That's where it broke. And then your actual fracturing stress, if you guys got it, will be a very high value. So 928. Yeah. I'll come back to these values now. Talk about it now. Just can you all see it's all force over area, right? All the same. Okay.
So, hold on, sorry, apologies. So
yeah,
we are now at your breaking stress and actual fracking stress. That's 3.5 and 3.6.
Yeah. Yeah. That too there. You will just send me what the Vickens textbooks look like. I think I did. There is a scanned copy or whatever. That's what we're at now.
You share if someone has a scanned copy.
Yeah, not the whole thing, but another first chapter, yeah.
Yeah, I got that one.
Yeah, okay. So are we happy with these values? Everyone get it? You just have to know what is what basically, man. That's what the essentially important part here. Come back to go or come back to afterwards regarding the factor of safety. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Anyway, so let's quickly let's we move on. So the last two part is your percentage elongation and your reduction in area. So again, for that one, your percentage elongation is just like your strain, fairly easy. And remember, this measures ductility. I'll do it with you guys. So again, we're looking at the extension, the total extension of the whole thing. In this case, it was 26 millimeters. It extended that much. So we take that extension and we divide that by the 70, right? It's quite easy. So we just work in millimeters, so percentage elongation. I think they call it X, what they call it. It's 26 divided by 70. And the only difference is we times it by 100 now. You get an answer. And then your reduction in area, percent in area, right, will be A initial squared minus A final squared divided by A initial squared. It's initial is always at the bottom. And if you recall, instead of area, we can just use diameter because the pi over 4's cancel out. So that's the final. Subscript O is initial, but anyway, I'll just go to the book here. So in this case, that's a quick value. I think we all can calculate that. You get around 37.14. And I'll deem this a ductile material. That's quite easy to do. And for this one, we just take in the diameter before and after, just like it was asking about the, So initially we had a 16 mil, and once we put it back together, we measure the diameter, it'll be 9.8 mil. Okay. So in this case, it's just going to be 16 squared minus 9.8 squared and dividing it by 16 squared. You can just quickly work it out for me. Yeah. And we can get our percentage reduction in area. Yeah, times by 100. Yes?
Sorry, okay, I'm not understanding your handwriting. What is an A what and AP? What are you writing there?
So it's final. Yeah, you must follow the textbook, man.
No.
Don't trust my handwriting. Yeah. AF. Yeah.
Okay, and the other
Initial,
one is?
it's
Oh,
initial
D
and
and
final. Yeah. D. D0 squared minus DF squared divided by DF squared. Or DO squared, sorry. Yeah. Do you have a textbook next to you?
No, sir, I don't have a textbook.
I see. Okay. That's I was under the assumption that you guys are following me, man. Yeah, with the textbook. But don't trust my handwriting. I don't trust it as well. Just letting you know. Yeah, it's hard to write anyway on this thing, but it works to write. So just work at the percentage area reduction in area for me quickly.
So let me understand. So you're saying the percentage of area, is that what?
Yeah. Not a percentage of area. Let me quickly show you.
Percentage reduction of area.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So I'm just gonna screen grab. Yeah. Just remind me to send you that slides of mine, man. I'll show it to you now so you guys can probably see it better. See what I mean? So initially the area was a certain amount. Yeah. Let's say that was what? 16. Yeah. Measured with a vernier, right?
Yeah.
So that diameter squared, right? Minus, we put it back together, we measure that small section over here, and that is 9.8, right? So that's 9.8 squared, and we're just dividing by the initial over there. Squared again, times by 100. You with me? So before that 16 and 9.8.
Sorry, it's the maths that's messing me. So from pi d squared 1, pi d minus pi d squared 4. That's the math I'm trying to out now. But at the end of the day, you get d minus d squared.
Yeah, it's not crazy. Yeah, it's not crazy. Remember, we're just taking pi over 4 as a common factor on everything.
Correct, yes. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Twisted a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Gotta work on the rusting. No, it's all right. Right. You're surprised how much people have that rusting then, and you're just brave enough to ask.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, so just get me that reduction area. This is Chad the one who's been working like with me? Vincent, you've been quiet, eh?
Chad,
guys,
yeah. 8.75.
Nah, it can't be 8.75. Make sure you're squaring your values, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
62.48.
Yeah, thank you, Korani. 62.48, yeah. Colleagues, I can just tell you something about strength materials. It is a hands-on sport, eh? You know what I mean? There's no way. you can just listen to me and talk. You got to be involved in this thing. It is not a last minute, you know what I mean? A last minute, I can squeeze in some stuff. Just forget about it. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna talk one more thing, then I'm gonna give you I'll leave you with an exercise, and then I'll have my other thing I want to talk about. We all get this answers. College, is it clear? Or is there any questions you have now?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Talk to me. Talk
So
to me.
I did not understand. Can you hear me?
Boom.
I did not
I can hear you.
understand how did you 3.4. I did not understand the 3.4.
No problem. Oh, so 3.4, you're taking the maximum
Yes,
load.
sir.
Yeah, you see that one there? In that case, the maximum load is 130. You see? So that's
Okay.
gonna be 130 times 10 to the power 3 divided by pi over 4 times the original area. 0. Sorry about that, 0.16. You see there? But the key is
Okay.
you're looking at the different loads. So the UTS is linked to the maximum load over there. You see? Okay. Any questions? Don't worry. We'll come back to this now. I'll give you one more, then we're gonna end off. And then we need to
One question, sir.
yeah, before I
This is the
move on.
test.
Is this in the test?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't answer such questions. Thank you.
Just asking.
Yeah. Make sure you know how to do it. Make sure you know how to do everything.
Okay.
You'll be all right. You guys find this difficult, eh? I want to explain one more concept, but it seems like, yeah, people need yeah, okay. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to a past paper now. And I want you guys to start solving this for me while we're on the session. And you can ask whatever questions you need to ask. And then yeah, it's basic practice right here. Okay, can you see a question? Can you guys see the question paper? Sure, thanks, Edward. And there you go.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah. 24 marks. You see there? Can you see how it's typically given?
Yes, sir.
Who's that? Yeah. You're saying yes. Can you see it or okay? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
I
can you
can
see
see
it?
it, sir.
Oh, thank you, Nan Gamso. I didn't. Yeah. Okay. So guys, try this one. All right. I'll work out the values while we are. Yeah. Can we do this one quickly? Can we do it in how many minutes, Edwin? Give us a time, please.
You asked me 30 minutes, sir.
Nah, no, Chief. No, come on, man.
Yeah, give us about 10 to 15 minutes. That
Okay.
should be enough that we can just figure
Okay.
this out.
So what we're gonna do, we do 1.1. I'll give it like 2-3 minutes, and then I'll say the answer, and then we'll move on like that. Is it clear to everyone? Everything's in front of you right there. You don't need anything fancy. Okay, so starting now, 1.1. Let's calculate the stress at the limit of proportionality. Now remember, that's always force over area. The load is given to you, and you have to work on the original area, just over there. Okay, so in the next 2 minutes, I'll put up the answer there, or I'll say the answer rather, and I hope you got it. Welcome to Standard Materials and Structures. N6 is way worse. Just letting you know. So I'm working it out for you. So long. If it takes me 30 seconds, it should take you 1 minute. Double the time. There's my diameter. Okay. Once you're done, you can just shout it out for me and I can just agree with it or not.
Okay.
184.
100%, Chief. Well done. 184 point something something, no? It's 184.146.
0.05.
Hmm? What?
0.05.
I have 146. 184.146.
Okay, so it's 4,05. So you can, another way you can say 4,1.
No, just keep the decimals, man. 146. 184.146. Times 10 to the power negative 10 times 10 times 10 to the power 6 or MPa. Portrait, are you winning? Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Okay, I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
but I'm not sure what I got here, if you can give me my mic or not.
Yeah, so what did you do? Just tell us.
So I got 4,051,216, which can
No,
be
that's wrong.
4,05 megawatt.
That's wrong. Which values did you use?
I use 70 times 10 to the power 3 times 4 over pi times 22 times 10 to the power negative 3.
You timesing or dividing?
I'm dividing.
Yeah, so it's 70 times 10 to the power 3 divided by pi over 4 times 22 times 10 to the power negative 3 squared. It's an area.
Sorry, I forgot the square. I'm wrong.
Be careful, nah? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 1.2. So remember, we're still in the limit of proportionality with elastic limit. We have to first calculate the strain. Once you have the strain, we just simply divide by the stress at the previous question, which, and remember, Young's modulus is stress over strain. I'm assuming we all have the formulas textbooks right next to us. If you haven't done so yet, I'm telling you right now, print out the formula sheet, have it next to you, print out 4 copies, one by your bedroom, one in your office, one in the study area, and one in the kitchen. All right, I'm waiting for you guys for Young's modulus. I think this one I can give you 3 minutes. Hey, don't listen to me. Do you know where to get past papers?
Yes, sir, I do. Yeah, that
Okay,
what you
thank
call
you.
it, lighting.
The TVET app.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm just checking. If anyone doesn't know, just please let me know. Oh, let me work at this. Yeah, let me work at this one so long.
GPA.
18446. No?
What? I got 174, sir.
Just hold on. Give me a second.
You're still busy. Okay.
Yeah, I was talking, man. It'll take me 5 seconds. Don't stress. I'm nearly there. It's meters. You're working in meters there. What's the initial length? That's 0. Yeah. So what did you get for your modulus?
174.4.
No ways. Yeah, 1.2.
1.0555.
No ways, man. No ways.
That is for the.
That's the elasticity.
Yeah,
for the strain. After that,
yes.
you must work
Oh, sorry. I'm looking for yeah. So what's the elastic modulus?
I got 174.
Nah, 174. What am I doing wrong here?
I don't know. What, someone else got something else? Oh.
It's 184.146, you know? That's the previous one.
146, yes.
Yeah, you have 190. That's in meters. And then 22 more. Oh, I see my mistake. I'm using the diameter instead. Yeah, sorry about that. My bad. Okay. 0.18. Yeah, I should.
Millimeters.
Yeah, you're right. It's 174.45 GPa. 100% chief. Well done. Okay. 2 marks there, no? Let's do the yield stress. I like to hear the other colleagues as well, eh? Kondani, Inga, Nangamso. Are you getting the answers?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Inga. Yeah, okay. So let's do the next one, the yield one.
63.
So the yield, you got to look there. What's the load at the yield and divide by the original area.
What is just for the previous one again? What's the answer for Young's modulus?
174 chief. 174.45 GPa.
GPA, no? Cool.
Yeah, times 10 to the power 9. Yeah. That's giga.
Sweet.
Yeah. The difference between an artisan, a technician, and an engineer, wow, it's all about the maths, eh? I don't know if you know that.
Oh, bro, I know some sketchy engineers, bro.
Yeah, but that's a problem. If the match is too what's the word I'm looking for? I don't use the word convoluted. If they're too far out of the game, you know, it's not any of practical significance.
I need hands-on experience, bro.
Yeah, now you need both. That's in between.
Yeah.
It's just that people tend to on the one end, or you know what I mean. It's too far, like two ends of the spectrum. Supposed to meet some in the middle.
You're coming with your masters, jumping way, you don't know.
100% chief. You're saying it properly.
It's the part. We don't know what's happening.
I would say if you can't be doing these calculations, if you can't use a drill, or let alone know the different drill bits and so on. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Because I mean, you must have that basic stuff. Okay, so yield stress. Let me work the out quickly for you. So that's okay. Got the 100. Portrait, you're quite, eh? I'm very happy with that.
I'm there, sir. I'm there, sir. I'm with you.
Yeah, good. So make sure you're getting the answers as so my yield stress, I'm going to give it now. No? That's the same area. That's 22 more. It's 263, eh? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well done.
263.
263.066 MPa.
Yes.
100%.
100%.
Yeah, it's 2 marks for you. Let's do the maximum stress now.
368, sir? Oh, yeah, you're not there yet. Okay, sorry.
263.
No, sorry. I'm maximum already. Sorry, apologies.
Oh, okay. Surprisingly, yeah? People change. 140. Yeah, 368 you said, no? Yeah. But these.
368, sir.
Yeah. So anyway, the maximum stress, we give the colleagues a chance. Portrait and Edwin, what do you guys do for what is your role and responsibilities at your current workplace?
All right, so
just curious.
I'm not working.
And the facilities
Let's
manager.
hear Edwin first and then Portrait afterwards.
Sorry, I'm an electrician by trade, sir, but I'm a facilities manager at the moment.
Okay, cool. Portrait?
Portrait is not working, sir, but it's a fitter.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Ask Nangamso, what do you do? Okay. Inga, what do you do? Okay, guys, so 1.4, you should get 368.292 MPa, right?
I got 393. Does that make a big difference?
Are you sure 393 for the maximum stress?
Maximum stress 368.393.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm not by fracturing it. Remember, we only now at 1.5 now. So so you should have gotten 368. Ported, I hope you got that. MPA.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let's do 1.5 now. So guys, with the actual fracturing stress, not and especially with the word actual, you have to use the load at fracture, right? Which is very important. It's telling you, and you have to use the diameter at fracture, right? So that's the important part there. But there's fracture.
Yes, I'm getting the answers, but my network is very bad.
Okay, good. That's fine. Yeah. So actual fracture is at that point of, when it breaks. What I hope through all of this, the next time that engineer comes up and he says something, you put him into question. You said, ask him to review the calculations. Let me just quickly check. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna just confirm. So we're using the load at fracture. That's gonna be the diameter is there. So you pick up a massive stress, eh? You guys get that big one. It should be a big load. So what is your actual fracturing stress? You guys get the actual?
1,285.938.
Yes. Times 10 to the power 9, huh? It's a gigapascal. It's a big load. Big stress, sorry. You get that?
So if it's to the power 9, it's
G. Gigapascal. So you should have 1.2859 times 10 to the power 9 Pascal. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. So let's quickly work out 1.6. Porter, did you get that one? For 1.5?
Not yet. I'm still calculating.
Okay.
So I'm behind.
Yeah. So percentage elongation. Remember, it's your extension divided by your original area times 100. It's similar to the strain. But in this case, it's at fracture, right? So the total extension after, so that guy there, divided by the original length. You can obviously figure that out. So 32 divided by 180.
Can you get the stress at fracture? What did you guys get there?
That's 1.2 something 35 times 10 to the power 9. Yeah. I can't recall what it was. You know what I'm waiting? Yeah, I'm not sure of the decimals. You must just check yourself. You know what do you get for that percentage elongation?
17.778.
100%. Yeah. Percent, yes, that's correct. Yeah. To be considered a ductile.
Sorry, I don't know.
Okay, as long as you're honest.
20%, no?
Yeah, it's 20%. Yeah, that's the standard. But yeah, there's debates on that value. Then if you're done,
hold on, sorry. So ductile is more than 20% or less than 20%?
Basically from 20 up. Yeah.
Okay. 20 plus.
Yeah, but
okay.
it's debatable, man.
It depends on the material, I guess.
Seems to be like your
Yes, exactly. For steels, it's like that. But then if you talking composite, it's a whole other game.
Steel is all mixed. So if you have two different materials, then it's not ductile. Well, be less or more.
Yeah. Well, we can still. Yeah, it's a very suspect metric. But anyway, let's do 1.7.
So yeah, I need the output.
Yeah. And you also use this calculations in one, even the electrical stuff when you're talking about your cabling and so on, your size of your cable. Yeah. I know I worked with one student who's working in Transnet. She came with some copper cable we had to test as well. And they had a certain spec, you know. So we tested the copper cable and I can't remember all the configurations of the cable. Copper, aluminium, and yeah. Obviously that's also structure itself, you know.
No, very much. I mean,
Yeah.
if you need to lift the cable up to calculate all this to make sure that cable holds, you must now
Exactly. Yes, thank you,
lift
man.
it up
Yeah.
to a building on top or whatever the case may be.
That's
So
correct.
this needs to be made by the engineer before they can lift it by crane
Yeah.
or whatever.
100%.
So yeah, that's does have an application.
Yeah.
All right, so just help quickly with 1.8.
Yeah. So no, 1.8 is just a graph you must draw, but I'll show you just quickly now.
Okay, sorry, 1.1.7. Help me quickly. So
So
I know
again,
it's d minus d squared.
that's your initial diameter squared, right? I hope everyone is following as well.
Okay.
The initial, right? So that's going to be a 22 squared minus your final now. Your final is 8.9, right?
No.
Yeah.
32.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then again divided by your initial. It's always divided by initial. And then times by 100. Yeah. Now I'll wait for the house to give that answer.
Are you supposed to use the extension?
We are at the reduction area, Chief. We've passed elongation already. Elongation is 17.78%. Sorry. Are you there now? The chat now. Yeah. This network is bad for. Okay.
Just answer me this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. It's fine.
I typed in percentage elongation. Typed in 0.32. Bottom is 180 times 10 to the minus 3.
So.
But then on my calculator it says 1,77778 times 10 to the minus 5. So how do I get that to 17.6?
So it's just 32 divided by 180. That's it. Just keep everything in millimeters.
Eh?
32 divided by 180.
Okay, keep it in millimeters.
Yeah, it's the same. But remember, it's dimensionless. You know what I mean? The millimeters cancel out.
Okay.
Or you can say 0.032 divided by 0.18. Same thing. Times that guy by 100, and you should get 17.78. What did you got that? Percent, right? Yeah.
I got you.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, I think we basically at the end here. And I urge you can just remind me to send you the question and also the memo of the question so you can have it on hand. But any stuff for the past papers, what I do recommend practice for me, past papers from 2021 to 2024. Remember that. All the questions there are easily examinable for me. Yeah.
So you said 2024, 2021 to 2024.
100%, Chief.
And that's only questions one, right?
Say again?
That's only the question one of those question papers right through.
Yeah, but I'm just saying as holistically for our sessions as well. You know what I mean? Stick there. Okay. Yeah, you with me? You know what I'm trying to say to you? Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. So then, the last part, I ask you to sketch. I want you to sketch essentially this graph over here and just label it. I'm gonna post it up for you. This one over here. But that's what the graph looks like. Obviously, this is not the graph of the previous one. You just want to label it accordingly. in terms of where the limit of proportionality is. It's around here somewhere. You know what I mean? Your yield will be around there. Your maximum is there, and your fractures over there. Obviously, I want you to go over this yourself, and then if you're not sure, but this is the standard graph they want. For that particular question.
Not the bulk in the middle.
No, not the bulk. That's a specimen, man. That's a specimen. Yeah, ignore that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's millimeters. So there's no pascals in there, so that's the.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
yeah. You'll see,
Okay.
man. A lot of you guys are rusty, so once you warm up, you
And then we just need to
label it. Yeah,
need to label it like maximum load,
exactly.
yield point,
Yeah, and that
lower
should be
yield,
the
higher lead point.
100%. You got it. That's in your book. Yeah. All I can say is don't approach the subject like a copy and paste subject. There's a lot of mathematical we used to. And what I like, what gets most students is not the understanding, it's the mathematics. You know what I mean? But in closing, before I'll take on questions again, guys, print out the formula sheets, go get a past paper, print those formula sheets, make 4 copies, keep it all over. Get used to the formulas at least. So I know that's very important for you guys. Yeah. And then make sure you're practicing everything from 2021 to what's it again? 2020 what is this? 2024. And then the last thing I want to say is is it possible to have a session with you guys at maybe on a Tuesday this coming week? So I want to do compound bars. Is it okay with everyone? Must I check again?
Sorry, any possibility we can make it in the middle, maybe the Wednesday or the Monday?
It's possible, yeah, but we can talk about it now. Yeah.
I'm just asking. I know the others also have other classes.
Okay, I'll hold a poll on the group. Yeah. So yeah, so I'll do that, and then I'll check tomorrow. Guys, another thing I recommend is something I use or recommend to students, but 1 or 2 students have used this, others don't really. It's something called what I use, a past paper tracker. All right. So what it's essentially for, it's just so that you are actually tracking how much of the questions you actually solved in the past papers. I mean, that's the main thing. So how this basically works, and if you are interested, I can share it with you. It's all the questions, right? So obviously question 1 will be a particular section. Let's say it'll be tensile, module 1, whatever module, for each one. And then you have your 3 different papers. And then what you do, your practice session, you basically solve maybe question 1, right, for the first paper. And depending on how you solve, you color code this. So if you got most of it right, you put everything right, you make a green, you make a yellow or whatever. And then you do that for the next, for the one, for that, you do for the next one. But in the end, what you're going to want to have, you basically see what you know and what you don't know. But what's important is that wherever it's not green, you want to come back to, you know what I mean? And make sure it's green. It's just a good way of accountability. You don't have to do this. This is something I recommend. And once you see everything green, it will basically show you how much you've worked. So if you, let's say, do tomorrow, right? I will do 3 question 1s, right? For 2019, those papers. It doesn't have to be all in order. And if you could solve all of them, or you know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes it's not in the syllabus as well, or if you're unable to solve. But a good way is to track how much work you put in. Sometimes you guys put in work, you guys think it's enough, but it's not enough. But anyway, okay, guys. That's it on my end. Any last comments you want to bring up? Yeah.
Okay, so that is not the only way they can do the.
Okay. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, I'm interested.
Okay, sorry. So they ask like a question of without drawing the graph, and then they give you the stress and the strain over quite a couple of numbers.
Yeah.
We need to identify the patterns and then when the jumps are, I think it is when the jumps are, there's a sudden change
Yes,
between your
yes.
and your strain. That might be okay. That one after that is the heel point. I can't remember what the sudden change one is. So
Yeah.
we still have to do one of those.
No, we're not going to do that, man. You're going to have to do the rest, man. We have to do on compound bars next, yeah.
Okay. All right. No, that's fine. So I'll have to figure that one out.
It's not figuring out, man. It's just, if you just do it, you'll see it's the same. Yeah. There's no real, you know what I mean?
Because there's not much calculations. Everything is given for you.
Basically, the main important part for you to identify what is what. You know what I mean? And use the right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either ask what's the standard proportional limit, you know, okay, it's going to be there. What's the yield? What's the UTS? What's my percentage elongation? You know what I mean? That's what's important. Yeah.
Yeah. When the jump is big between the stress and strain, you know that is your limit.
Yes.
Elastic
Yes.
limit. So,
but like also once you do the papers, you pick up the patterns, man. You know what I mean? They only ask it so much, certain ways. Okay. Anyone else before we close off? Yeah. Portrait?
So I will see you any day that you make.
Okay. I appreciate, man. I appreciate.
Sure, any day.
Yeah. Anyone else? Nangamso, Inga, Chanel? Charius? Hey?
What's the chapters we're gonna write on?
I can't hear so lekker.
What's the chapters we're gonna write on?
Oh, module 1 and module 2. Got it. It's in the subject thing schedule. Okay, guys. Any last one before we close? Can we close?
So sorry, can I ask you?
Sure.
Okay, no, to compound bars next week.
Yeah.
So I don't understand it. So yeah, I have questions about it, but I think I'll WhatsApp you rather.
I can, I can always send you some other videos to watch where we solve some problems before. So maybe that can assist you as well but you can ask as much questions, man.
Is it on your channel?
I look at, I don't have a YouTube. Yeah, it's there. It's the videos there. It's not a channel, just stuff I put there.
Yeah, okay. I'll have a look.
But you can always ask on the group, and then I can obviously address. And I think you should ask on the group so you can apply pressure on certain people.
Everybody can see it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. But whatever question, you just ask me, man. Just ask me.
I'm done. Bye.
Yeah. Okay, cheers, guys. Cheers, colleagues. All right. Stop the recording.
Bye.
Bye.